When you think about trucks, who builds them? Who profits from them? Africa rarely comes to mind, and certainly not Burkina Faso, one of the most economically challenged nations in West Africa. But what if I told you that right now, deep in this landlocked country, something is happening that could shake up the entire automotive industry? Something bold, something unexpected, something powerful. Forget what you thought you knew about manufacturing in Africa, because today, in the heart of Burkina Faso, there stands a factory that is building more than just machines. It's building national pride, continental ambition, and a future no one saw coming. This is the story of the Wend Puiré truck factory, and how it might just change everything. This isn't a story of foreign investors dropping in to exploit cheap labor. This is Burkinabè innovation, Burkinabè engineering, Burkinabè leadership. And it all started with one simple question. Why should Africa always depend on the outside world for things it can build itself? For decades, Burkina Faso, like many African nations, imported almost all its vehicles, from worn-out second-hand trucks to overpriced new models built thousands of miles away. These machines were never designed for the harsh African terrain, nor the realities of African life. Roads that turn to rivers, heat that melts the tires, maintenance that costs more than the vehicle's worth. Yet millions of people relied on these trucks to carry food, goods, building materials, and hope from one village to another. But buried beneath that dependency was a growing frustration, a desire for self-reliance. And in 2022, that desire turned into action. Inspired by a wave of nationalism, Pan-African pride, and the bold leadership of 36-year-old President Ibrahim Traoré, the youngest president in the world, a group of local engineers and entrepreneurs came together with a daring dream: to build Burkina Faso's first truck from scratch. It sounded impossible. A country without a single car brand, building its own industrial vehicle, no Western backing, no Chinese takeover, just African minds, African hands, and African determination. Yes, that's exactly what they did. Within months, the Wend Puiré factory broke ground. Located just outside the capital, Ouagadougou, this modern facility rose from the red soil like a phoenix. Steel frames went up, machinery arrived, and hundreds of young people, many of whom had never stepped foot in a factory before, were trained from the ground up, not only in welding or mechanics, but in logistics, design, quality control, and automation. 1 year later, the first Burkinabè-made truck rolled off the line, not an imitation of something foreign, but a machine born of African soil, built for African roads and powered by African purpose. These trucks are no joke. They are tough, rugged, and durable. With heavy-duty suspensions, reinforced chassis, and engines that can withstand extreme conditions, they're perfect for the rough, rural roads of West Africa. Whether they're carrying bags of millet from the Sahel or stacks of bricks for construction in the city, these machines perform. But here's what makes them special. They're simple to fix. No need for overpriced, hard-to-find imported parts. Local mechanics can service them. Farmers can maintain them. And with every truck sold, a full supply chain of Burkinabè-made parts is activated, creating jobs in every corner of the country. This is more than industry, it's impact. Today, the factory employs over 500 Burkinabè citizens, young, skilled, and proud. And the ripple effect is enormous. Local suppliers, transporters, fuel providers, training programs in universities, parents who no longer have to watch their children risk their lives trying to migrate to Europe in search of opportunity. One young woman working at the factory said this: "Before, I thought my future was in France. Now, I build trucks in Burkina Faso." Her story is not unique. Dozens like her are turning away from the dream of foreign escape and embracing the power of staying and building at home. And the world is starting to notice. Orders are already coming in from Mali, Niger, Togo, and Chad. These nations are tired of the dependency cycle. They're tired of waiting 6 months for a truck from Germany or Japan, only to be handed a used model at double the price. Now, they're turning to their neighbor, Burkina Faso, and saying, "We want what you're building." And here's the game changer. Wend Puiré trucks are 25 to 30% cheaper than imported alternatives. Why? No middlemen, no long shipping delays, no currency conversion losses, just straightforward African commerce, nation to nation, brother to brother. What started as a humble national project has now become a continental symbol, a message that Africa is done waiting, that it can build what it needs, that it can manufacture its future. And it all started with one truck. But the vision doesn't end there. Inside the Wend Puiré factory, there are already sketches of electric models, hybrid engines, buses, tractors, even early designs for Burkina Faso's first locally assembled electric car. Imagine that, an African-built electric car for African roads, charged by African sun. And it's not just about transportation, it's about education, empowerment. Engineering programs in local universities are now partnering with the factory to train the next generation of auto designers, AI technicians, and logistics experts. Students who once memorized foreign theories are now applying real-world skills, right here at home. There's talk of expanding the factory's capacity, building sister plants in the north and southwest regions, scaling up output to meet rising demand, adding solar-powered assembly lines to reduce operational costs, investing in research labs where young minds can test new technologies tailored for Africa's future. This is a blueprint, a model that other African nations are already studying. Because if a landlocked country with few resources and no history of vehicle production can do this, what's stopping Kenya? What's stopping Congo? What's stopping Nigeria, Senegal, or South Sudan? For too long, Africa has been seen as the final market for the world's old machines. But the Wend Puiré factory flips that narrative on its head. It says, we don't just consume, we create. We don't just buy, we build. And maybe that's what scares the world the most. Because once Africa starts producing on its own terms, the game changes. Profits stay home, skills stay home, power stays home. This is what Burkina Faso has started. Not just a truck, not just a factory, but a movement. One that roars through the dust with pride. One that inspires hope with every ignition. One that carries a continent's dreams on 4 African-made wheels. So the next time you see a truck barreling down a West African highway, look closer. It might not be from Germany. It might not be from Japan. It might be from right here, from a country that refuses to be counted out. A country that said, we'll build it ourselves. And they did. The question now isn't can Africa manufacture vehicles? It's who's next? And if we zoom out even further, the implications are revolutionary. Imagine a West African auto corridor where nations collaborate not just as consumers, but as co-creators. Imagine truck parts produced in Ghana, assembled in Burkina Faso, tested in Côte d'Ivoire, and exported to the entire ECOWAS region. That's the future we're looking at. Already investors from within Africa are showing keen interest, not just in Wend Puiré, but in the concept of Pan-African industrial zones. Manufacturing doesn't have to be isolated. It can be a network of excellence across borders. That spirit of unity, economic, industrial, and cultural, is what makes this movement unstoppable. This success story is also forcing a rethink in global aid and development models. For decades, the West poured billions into Africa with very little sustainable transformation. But one self-sufficient truck factory has delivered more impact than hundreds of handouts. Because what Africa needs isn't sympathy, it's support to unleash what it already has: talent, determination, and purpose. The youth of Burkina Faso and of Africa are not waiting for permission anymore. They're creating jobs, leading change, and pushing limits. And every time a new truck rolls off that line, it tells them, "You did this." So the next time someone tells you Africa is behind, remember the Wend Pure factory. Remember the engineers, the welders, the visionaries. Remember the sound of an engine built not just with metal, but with belief. If this inspired you, don't just scroll by. Hit that like button, share this story with someone who believes in Africa's potential, and tell us in the comments, should more African countries start building their own trucks, cars, and buses? Drop your flag below if you believe the future is made in Africa. And if you haven't already, subscribe, because this is just the beginning. The age of African industry has arrived. The future is ours. The future is built here, and it's driving straight into history, one truck at a time.